Today here on All In with Bryan Weatherford, we are all into podcasts. Let me back up there just a little bit. Podcast. It's one of those words to a lot of people. It's a brand new thing, the podcast, but you might be surprised when you find out just how long podcasts have been around. But you're going to be even more surprised to find out that you might be able to do a podcast yourself. Like so many things in life, you can't do it on your own, but there's plenty of pros out there to help. And by golly, we have one here with us today that can help you do a podcast. And if it's not you individually, it very well could be a place you work, a place you go to church, a place you go to school, etc. Podcasts are everywhere out there. If you're going to do it, you need to do it right. Our guest today on All In with Bryan Weatherford, the name of the company is Podcast Cadet, and Christopher Jordan is our guest. Christopher, welcome to the show today, sir. How are you?
Doing great, Bryan. Thank you so much for having me on.
Appreciate you being here. I was looking at the notes today. When you formed Podcast Cadet, it wasn't just you. You formed it, you and your wife. So what's it like being in business with your wife, Amy?
I love it. I absolutely love it. And that's not just to say it on air, Bryan. The fact is, I myself am a 20-year AV engineer, so I do wires for a living. I swim in the world of technology. My wife, on the other hand, is a 20-year-long teacher of improv and sketch comedy. So she's more used to teaching people how to be with people one-on-one. So when I started two podcasts, she had one going. We had friends that were wanting to start them for their businesses. I had a background in broadcast. She had a background in teaching people how to break the ice. So it was like, how is this not a natural marriage between the people that we both know in advertising, things like that? So we've really made a system where we get people onboarded and get them one-on-one help with the technology, with the distribution, monetization, everything from soup to nuts.
It's absolutely the perfect partnership because frankly, Christopher, if you as the techie guy was going to set off to do this, you would need to find an Amy. And again, conversely, if Amy as the content on-camera teacher person was going to do this, she would need to find a Christopher. And the fact that you guys were already together, I totally get it. So kudos to you both. Kudos to you both on that. I was talking about in the intro about how anybody can do a podcast. Truly anyone can do a podcast, but more specifically, break it down into groups. What types of groups out there need to hold podcasts for a variety of reasons and the type that you work with?
Most of the people that we work with at Podcast Cadet are more in the professional realm. We've started to see a lot more people, especially since COVID has happened, who literally have the spare time on their hands that they never had before, where they were like, I've thought about getting into this. You know, I'm into reading books. I love reading books. Why don't we start up a book podcast? And that's what's great about podcasting is someone who comes from the world of mainstream media, broadcast AV, things like that, as opposed to having to be able to reach a large swath of people. Podcasting really lets you drill down into a true niche audience, which is where for business people, it really is the plus side. Once you start being able to produce a podcast for your business, you can now focus that content to precisely the people that you are wanting to sell, close sales with, things like that. It really does set you up, as they say in the broadcast world, as a trusted voice in an industry. So, it's great. It's
interesting how people don't realize it, but in a lot of times they're an expert in their industry and they don't even know it. And it could be because they've been doing it so long. It could be because they've been doing it so well, but whatever it is, you're exactly right. A podcast is an ideal opportunity for them to prove to people that they're an expert and hopefully be able to monetize that as well. For a lot of people, myself included, I mean, to put it down to basics, two types of people. I'm the guy, I don't have any problem talking. I'm pretty good at writing what I'm going to talk about, etc. I have no tech experience. That scares the death to me because I can't imagine what I would need to start. So in a nutshell, on a technical side, what do people need technically to get started to do a podcast?
A phone. Literally. There are microphone setups that you can buy that are two lapel microphones like what I'm wearing that go directly into your phone. You use the voice memo recorder and hit record. You are off and away at recording your first podcast. I recorded a show live out at the Marfa, Texas Light Viewing Center with my cell phone. I actively went live on my Dudes and Beer podcast, on the way to the delivery room, they had to tell me to cut my phone off and stop broadcasting as I walked into the delivery room. That is how mobile podcasting has become.
Well, that is fantastic, because anybody that wants to start a podcast, there's a relatively good chance they have a phone, and that's all they need. Right. That's all they need to get rolling. But when they do get rolling and they want to do some more, there's so many moving parts out there, so much to learn. You and your company, you offer a great deal of workshops, for lack of a better word, to help people out. Give me some of the topics people can learn if they attend your workshops.
We definitely have the podcast boot camp is probably our most popular one. That one we were really doing in groups of about 20 or 30 for quite a while at various conferences, things like that were in niche markets. One of our favorite ones to do was like the Houston Comic Convention. Going and talking to people like comic book nerds like myself about podcasting. They're just into it all day long. And most of them are tech heads. They're video gamers, that kind of stuff. So it really is A to Z in the podcasting world. I have helped people from IBM start personal podcasts with pseudonyms because they were talking about things that, well, they didn't want their boss IBM to know about. I have helped people start up shows that were about massage therapy and essential oil. It's literally any topic that you are interested in, you can go out and podcast in. It's great.
Well, and the beauty of it is, too, with Podcast Cadet, you offer so many different services. I mean, yes, you can help people. They have their phone, great. If they want to progress a little bit, you can help them out with that. Your wife can certainly jump in, help them to write topics and scripts, if you will, of what they want to talk about. But the biggest part is you want to be able to get the word out there. I mean, I don't want to just hear myself talking. You help people do that as well, as to how they can actually create, find, and build an audience. Touch on that just a little bit.
Well, that's really the biggest part is just like with any show, being able to produce it properly. Part of that production is finding out where to plant the roots, where to put the seed, and really kind of figuring out your social media, figuring out what groups you're going to be akin to in social media. There really does come some demographic work when it comes to that. Even my shows, like Talking Sound, have gone through some changes over the years, let's just say. And it's different to see where they are now as to where they were in the beginning. And it's fun to take people on that journey. We teach people everything from the technology, hooking everything up, to running Zoom meetings like this and recording both ends of it, how to produce their intro and outro, how to edit. We teach people the marketing end of things, how to find their audience. We even do audits for people that already have podcasts up and running and are just trying to maybe hit a new realm, get to the point where they can actively monetize things properly, that kind of stuff. So,
well, so many things. I mean, from here to here and everything in between regarding podcast. I've got about a minute left, but I got to touch on this because another thing that you guys also offer through Podcast Cadet is public speaking. Helping people out with their public speaking. I guess that's more on Amy's side of things, but how do you help people with their public speaking?
Well, we help people out through workshops, one-on-one coaching, things like that. For quite a while, like I said, before we started Podcast Cadet, we lived in the corporate world. My wife went out and did corporate workshops, team building, things like that. So it's kind of along the realm of that, getting you a little bit more comfortable with yourself, speaking extemporaneously about a topic that, hey, you know, like my dad, he probably wouldn't be a fantastic radio host at first. But you know what? You give him a microphone and tell him to talk tires for 20 minutes, it's off to the races, man. You know,
there you go,
he's
folks.
Been selling tires his whole life.
Listen up, folks. If you have a cell phone and you have passion and you have a topic, you're so much closer to having a podcast than you've ever realized. If you're ready to jump in, need some help, Podcast Cadet, the way to go. Christopher Jordan, thank you for coming all in with us today. Continued success, and thank you for helping people realize their dream. They really can do a podcast. You take care. Everyone else, take care as well. See you in a bit.